The sun shone brightly, birds chirped merrily. The Harper family pulled into their new driveway. Big, beautiful Victorian house, a fresh start, smiles all around. The air, however, felt oddly still, like holding your breath before a plunge. John Harper, the father, unloaded boxes. Optimism oozed from him. Mary, his wife, felt a tremor of unease. Just nerves, she told herself. 10-year-old Billy ran, laughing into the house. His laughter echoed strangely. The moving truck rumbled away, leaving them alone. Days passed in a blur of unpacking and settling in. John loved the old house, its quirks and character. Mary remained ill at ease. She'd catch fleeting glimpses of shadows moving at the edge of her vision. Whispers seemed to come from empty rooms. One night, a picture frame crashed to the floor. Billy swore he saw a figure dash away. John dismissed it as an old house settling, but Mary felt a chill run down her spine. Something wasn't right. The incidents escalated. Footsteps creaked on the stairs at night. Objects moved inexplicably. One evening, Mary could have sworn she saw a tall, shadowy figure lurking in the upstairs hallway. It vanished when she blinked. Billy refused to sleep alone. He spoke of feeling watched, of cold, invisible hands touching him in the night. John started to worry. Mary's fears were becoming contagious. The house felt heavy, oppressive. John found Mary sobbing one afternoon. "I saw him," she whispered, her eyes wide with terror. "At the attic window, watching us." He rushed to the attic, heart pounding. Empty, except for a single dusty rocking chair swaying gently as if recently occupied. That night, sleep was impossible. Every creak of the house, every rustle of leaves outside their window, sent shivers down their spines. They were living in a state of perpetual fear. The house had them on edge. Fear. The more he felt the weight of the house's sinister past pressing down on him. He couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched, just as the old man had been. Their nightmare was far from over. The house seemed to have a life of its own, feeding off their fear and growing stronger with each passing day. John knew that they had to find a way to break free from its grip before it consumed them all. A presence confirmed. Billy's screams pierced the night. They rushed to his room, fear gripping their hearts. He was cowering under the covers, his eyes wide with terror. "It was him," he cried, pointing to the closet door. "The Watcher. He was in my room." John ripped open the closet door. Empty. But as he closed it, he saw it. Scratched into the wood, barely visible, were 3 words. "He watches you." John felt a cold sweat break out on his skin. The terror mounts. The haunting intensified, becoming bolder, more menacing. Doors slammed shut on their own. Lights flickered and died. One evening John felt an icy breath on his neck as he stood in the living room. He whirled around, his heart pounding. No one. But the air hung heavy, charged with unseen menace. Sleep became a distant memory. They were prisoners in their own home, terrorized by an unseen entity. The once welcoming house now felt like a suffocating tomb. The nightmare unfolds. It was a night like no other, where the air was thick with an unsettling silence, broken only by the occasional rustle of leaves and distant hoot of an owl. The house stood ominously against the dark sky, its windows like hollow eyes staring into the abyss. The climax came on a stormy night. Thunder rumbled in the distance, growing louder with each passing second, as if the heavens themselves were angry. The sky was a canvas of dark, swirling clouds, illuminated sporadically by jagged streaks of lightning that seemed to tear the very fabric of the night. Rain lashed against the windows, wind howled like a banshee. The storm was relentless, pounding the house with a fury that seemed almost personal. Each raindrop was a tiny hammer, each gust of wind a wailing spirit, all conspiring to create a symphony of chaos. Suddenly the lights went out, plunging the house into darkness. The sudden blackout was like a curtain falling on a stage, leaving the inhabitants in a void of uncertainty. The only light came from the occasional flash of lightning, casting eerie shadows that danced on the walls. A blood-curdling scream echoed from upstairs. "Billy!" The sound was sharp, piercing through the cacophony of the storm, sending chills down their spines. It was a scream of pure terror, a sound that no one could mistake for anything but a cry for help. They raced up the stairs, fear lending them speed. Their hearts pounded in their chests, each step feeling like an eternity. The staircase seemed to stretch on forever, a never-ending path to an unknown horror. Billy's bedroom door was ripped from its hinges. He was gone. The room was a scene of chaos, toys scattered, furniture overturned. It was as if a whirlwind had passed through, leaving nothing but destruction in its wake. In the flickering light of a lightning flash, they saw it. The brief illumination revealed a sight that would haunt them forever. The hallway, once familiar and safe, was now a corridor of nightmares. A tall, shadowy figure, its eyes glowing an eerie red, stood at the end of the hallway, holding Billy in its grasp. The figure was like a living shadow, its form shifting and undulating as if made of smoke. The red eyes were like burning coals, piercing through the darkness. And in its grasp, Billy hung limp, a small, helpless figure in the clutches of a nightmare. Flight from evil. It was a night unlike any other, where the very air seemed to crackle with malevolence. The storm raged on, as if nature itself was warning them of the impending doom. "Run!" John screamed, scooping up Mary and racing back down the stairs. His heart pounded in his chest, each beat echoing the urgency of their escape. The house, once a sanctuary, had turned into a prison of terror. They fled the house into the storm, the image of the shadowy figure seared into their minds. The rain lashed against their faces, mingling with their tears of fear and desperation. Every shadow seemed to move, every sound amplified by their heightened senses. They didn't stop running until they reached the safety of their car. The cold metal of the car door was a stark contrast to the warmth of their home, now lost to them. They fumbled with the keys, hands shaking, as the storm continued its relentless assault. As they sped away, John risked a glance back at the house. The once welcoming windows now seemed like eyes watching their every move. The road ahead was treacherous, but the danger behind was far greater. In the topmost window, a single light flickered on. It was a beacon of the malevolent presence that had invaded their lives. The light seemed to pulse with a life of its own, a sinister reminder of what they had left behind. A pair of glowing red eyes watched them go. Those eyes, filled with malice and hatred, would haunt their dreams for years to come. They were a symbol of the evil that had taken root in their home, an evil that would not be easily forgotten. They had escaped with their lives, but the horror would stay with them forever. The journey ahead was uncertain, but one thing was clear: they could never return to the life they once knew. The storm outside was nothing compared to the storm within their hearts, a storm that would rage on long after the rain had stopped. The Watcher remains. The Harpers never returned to the house. It stood empty, a silent testament to the terror that lurked within its walls. Locals whispered about the family that had fled in the night, driven mad by the haunting. The house remained unsold, avoided like a plague. For in the shadows of that house the watcher still waits, watching, waiting for its next victims, waiting to claim another soul in the darkness. The haunting continues.